Let's see, how about a hostess buffet? A hostess buffet. One of them little round things on shore to chase my blues away. Supper true, little drinky, I'm crazy about you. Some say I'm sick, but tiger tails are so much fun to lick. Yeah, I want 'em all. Don't forget to bring 8 dozen snowballs. Yeah, hostess all day. Gonna have myself a hostess buffet. A hostess buffet. A hostess buffet. One of them little round things on shore to chase my blues away. Hostess buffet all day long. Hostess buffet all day long. Hostess buffet is the name of the song. Hostess buffet is the name of the song. Hostess buffet going till I puke. Hostess buffet going till I puke. Hostess buffet ain't gonna share with you. Hostess buffet ain't gonna share with you. Hostess buffet is mine, all mine. Hostess buffet is mine, all mine. Hostess buffet all of the time. Hostess buffet all of the time. Hostess buffet gonna eat till I die. Hostess buffet can't stop, ain't gonna try.
Hey, you guys! I say this calls for action, and now, nip it in the bud.
Michelle Pfeiffer? Ha! The only true Catwoman is Julie Newmar, Lee Merriweather, or Eartha Kitt. And I didn't need molded plastic to improve my physique. Pure West.
Good morning, angels.
Good morning, Charlie.
I love it when a plan comes together.
It's time. Let's talk about music, movies, and mostly television from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff.
Hey folks, you found GSTV. That stands for Good Stuff Television. We celebrate entertainment from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. And the cool thing about GSTV, you never know what's coming up next. Who was your favorite Three's Company roommate? That's the question that I asked a couple of days ago, and over 2,800 of you have responded. Now, before I get to the actual results, let's look at a few of the comments that people posted when they voted. Let's see. Let's go over here. There we go. D. Wade said, you can't go wrong with any member of the show. Jack is my favorite, but Don Knotts really knocked it out of the park in his role. I agree. As a matter of fact, Don Knotts, while not a roommate, so he wasn't on the list, is one of my favorite actors from that show as well as the Andy Griffith Show. Terrell Bellinger says, Jack Tripper was a hilarious character. John Ritter was such a funny, talented actor. Great physical comedian. May he rest in peace. And Jason Lindsay said, oh, I cast my vote for Janet before I saw Jack. Still is Janet. She was the Scooby-Doo's Thelma. Bright and kept things on an even keel. Great show. Watched the premiere. Tony Felder said, been a fan since the pilot premiered. Jack was such a funny character. As for his lovely roommates, I love them all. But Janet was number one with me. And who could forget Larry and the landlords? Especially Mr. Roper. And Vicky Bunch said, Jack was so funny, great pratfalls, comedic timing, he had it all. And George Master said, Jack had a knack for physical comedy. I saw the 2-part episode with Lucille Ball as hostess. I'm seeing a trend here, so let's go to the results and see what all of you said. And here we are. All right, I'm going to keep these obscured for a moment, and we'll go through them one at a time. Coming in last place was Cindy, played by Jenny Lee Harrison. She got 4% of the vote. Next up, Terry, played by Priscilla Barnes, 5% of the vote. So the replacements for Suzanne Summers, they ended up being the least favorite, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Coming in the third spot is a complete surprise to me. That's the character of Janet, played by Joyce DeWitt. She got 23% of the vote, and just edging her out, just barely, was Chrissy, played by Suzanne Summers. She got 24% of the vote, and that takes us to the favorite roommate from Three's Company by an overwhelming margin. Jack, played by John Ritter. 44% of the 2,800 plus votes were for Jack. And, of course, John Ritter. What a great actor. I've done a video on John Ritter, and I think now is the right time to play it. Growing up, I thought John Ritter was one of the funniest guys on TV. Even though the son of legendary Tex Ritter had been making guest appearances on shows like MASH and The Waltons for a while, it was on Three's Company where I really took notice of his innate talent to be funny, all while still seeming like a run-of-the-mill, everyday, normal, average Joe. You know, the kind of guy that everyone knows. You could see a little bit of you in him, and that made him instantly relatable. At one point, Ritter's Three's Company co-star Don Knotts called him the greatest physical comedian on the planet, and I would have to agree. John managed to fall, tumble, and bang his way into anything to get a laugh. For me, though, it was John's ability to garner a smile instead of a laugh that made him so darn endearing. One of my favorite movies of all time is 1980's Hero at Large, where Ritter starred alongside Ann Archer and portrayed an actor who had been hired to dress up as a superhero for shopping mall appearances. When he unexpectedly foils a crime, he becomes a media darling and unfortunately a pawn in a political race. Ritter's performance in this movie is one of his best. Years later, he would give a different but equally touching performance in the movie Sling Blade with Billy Bob Thornton. But that's a different movie that I'll just mention and then move on, since I really want to focus on Ritter's more mainstream comedic work. Wait, I said I was going to move on, but I've got to say one more thing. Yeah, Ritter should have gotten an Oscar for that role, and yet he wasn't even nominated. I have to think the Academy just couldn't get past his Three's Company days. Speaking of Three's Company, when that show finally ended, the adventures of Jack Tripper did not. Ritter took his character to a new sitcom that had him finding true love and attempting to settle down into a somewhat normal life. Unfortunately, Jack's new father-in-law, well, he's not a big fan of those plans. Three's a Crowd was enough of a rating success that ABC was willing to renew the show for a second 13-episode season. However, when Ritter asked for a full season commitment, the network turned him down and canceled the show. In 1987, Ritter gave primetime television another try with the series Hooperman. This show had as much drama in it as comedy, and Ritter demonstrated his ability to rise far above what had been asked of him previously as an actor, and I loved it. So did the critics. Unfortunately, what really counts are how many people tune in each week to watch, and quite frankly, not that many other people did, causing ABC to cancel the show after just 2 seasons. Although Ritter continued to find work in motion pictures, his true love was short-form comedy, and because of that, he signed on to co-star with the lovely Markie Post in a comedy called Hearts of Fire. Less drama this time, more comedy, and both critics and television audiences responded favorably. I'm not sure why this thing only ran 3 seasons. The obvious answer is that the ratings must have declined over time, but Ritter and Post had great chemistry. The writing on the program, which was at its heart a commentary on the good and bad of politics, well, it was pretty darn sharp. Anyway, this one felt like it could have ran longer. I've never understood the rationale behind so many of the network cancellation decisions. And this one came from CBS. Don't even get me started about those guys. John's final television series was 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Daughter. It was on the set of that series that he experienced chest pain that was initially misdiagnosed as a heart attack. What Ritter actually had was a tear in his aorta, and once the correct diagnosis was made, doctors rushed him in for emergency surgery, which he unfortunately did not survive. After John's death, a new set of life-saving reminders became known as the Ritter Rules. They were designed to recognize, treat, and prevent the dangers that come along with these large artery tears that can be so deadly. John once said something like, "I've never considered myself to be a TV star. I'm just the luckiest guy in the world." I would argue, in fact, that we are actually the lucky ones. For decades, we had the pleasure of inviting the warm and funny John Ritter into our homes on a weekly basis. And in him, we saw ourselves, albeit a much funnier version of us. And in the end, he made us feel better about the world in which we live. And for that, I will forever be grateful. All right, that's it. So what was your favorite John Ritter TV show or movie? Let me know in the comments section. And while you're at it, if you enjoyed this video, I'd love a thumbs up. And I would also be honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Good evening to one and all. So here's what we're doing tonight, folks. Well, I've noticed in the comments a few people wondered if tonight is a pre-recorded live stream. It's not. I'm here. But there has been a request from a number of channel members for me to return to doing what I like to call GSTV, Good Stuff Television. And so tonight, during the live stream, that's exactly what we are doing. I fired up the transmitter over at GSTV, and we are doing Good Stuff Television, which means we'll be watching a number of videos. And tonight's focus is Three's Company, so the videos, for the most part, will be about Three's Company, but you'll see there'll be other things as well. I'm going to throw in a few other things. And from time to time, I'll pop in to highlight a few super chats if there are any. And there has been one, and I want to make sure that I say thank you and highlight that one. So the first super chat is from Kevin Connor. And Kevin's great. He typically, prior to each live stream, throws a super chat my way. And I rarely get a chance to say thank you to him because by the time the live stream starts, it's gone. I don't see it. And I only notice it later on when I'm looking at the history of Super Chat donations. But Kevin Connor, thank you very much. It truly is. That kind of support truly is appreciated. Matter of fact, it's dynamite.
Pure dynamite! Dynamite!
So thank you very much, Kevin. Again, truly appreciate it. Appreciate your support. I will pop back in and out as is needed, as warranted by any super chats that may pop in there. But let's do this. Let's keep moving. And the next video that I'd like to show is, well, Lance Chaffin a couple of weeks ago suggested that I do a live stream on Battle of the Network Stars, and I'm working on that. To do that, I'm going to have to put together some more videos. So I'm starting to curate the videos, but this next little section is going to start with a quick memory in a minute about Battle of the Network Stars, and then it's going to segue into a video or a race, an obstacle race that Joyce DeWitt had way back in the late 70s against Patricia Klaus. I don't know if any of you remember her, but that's a fun little race. And then we'll jump into a video about Joyce. So let's go ahead and get rolling with those. And then like I said, if needed, I'll pop in a bit and talk some more. The original Battle of the Network Stars aired from 1976 to 1988. During the competitions, well-known actors and actresses would compete in events such as the swimming relay, tennis, a dunk tank, and the one that decided it all, the tug of war. Within these events, there were some really great moments, not the least of which was the dunk tank competition. If you think about it, this one is kind of silly and not really much of a sporting event at all. Still, I loved it for reasons that would have been obvious to any teenage boy. The year that both Heathers, Locklear, and Thomas were in the dunk tank together was huge. Where else would you get pop singer Debbie Boone, Joyce DeWitt, and from Battlestar Galactica, Maren Jensen together like this? And a shout out has to go to the late great Howard Cosell. I can't remember a time when Cosell didn't treat these entertainers with respect and dignity. When he interviewed Gabe Kaplan, he acted as if he were talking to Muhammad Ali or Bruce/Caitlyn Jenner.
We get ready now to continue with the competition, the obstacle course event. And there is Patty Klaus. She's ready to take her part, and her opponent will be Joyce DeWitt. And Frank Gifford was there earlier to speak with Joyce.
Joyce, I know you probably haven't done this too many times. What has been the advice of first your trainer and your captain?
Stay low, going under the nets here, watch each tire carefully, don't fall off the monkey bars, and take it easy getting on the rope.
Remember the tires, keep the knees high.
Keep the knees high, okay. That's right. Thank you, yeah, you said it earlier.
White wine with fish.
And it's white, okay.
All right, good luck, guys.
White wine and fish, and they may be a pair of fish before this thing is over. Remember, they've got to beat the times of Wendy Rastatter and Valerie Bertinelli, 24.18 and 26.30 seconds. Patty Klaus nearest to you, and they're off, going under that first obstacle, no problem there. Now the tires. Keep the knees high, Gift told them, and they followed his instructions. The monkey bars can become a problem, and do become a problem right there for Patty Klaus. So Joyce DeWitt has the lead, but she's having trouble getting up the ladder. And Patty Klaus has made up most of the ground, so they get to the final obstacle, the water pit. And, Patty Klaus hurt that right leg. You could see it, and that's what gives Joyce DeWitt the victory. Let's get in there as quickly as we can to find out how hurt Patty Klaus actually is. What happened to you, Patty? Did you hurt yourself?
It's okay.
Where'd you hurt yourself?
In your leg, coming through the water. It's okay.
On the water, dear?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Meanwhile, I have to congratulate you, Joyce.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank
Good
you.
job. You were having trouble.
Is she a tiger? Oh, get it. A
She was
tiger.
having trouble getting over that wall. What was that time? 29:05, so Wendy Rastatter still has the best time.
Yeah, she
but
sure
congratulations.
does. Thank you.
And I hope you feel better,
I
Patty.
feel good too.
You got a lot of guts.
Thank you. Thanks.
Let's take a look at her in action again on that water pit in slow motion. Now,
Patty's coming up to it, the left side of your screen. And see that right leg lag behind and get caught there at the very edge, as shown by the circle at the bit. Now she's with the doctor. The trainer for the company. You can see the bruise. And she'll be all right.
For most of the 8 years that Joyce DeWitt worked on her classic TV sitcom Three's Company, it brought her a tremendous amount of joy and happiness. But there was a moment toward the end of the show where she felt the exact opposite. This is that story. But don't worry, it's not a complete downer. Hang on for a few minutes and you'll see why. When Three's Company debuted in 1977, it was a huge ratings success. Based on the British sitcom Man About the House, Three's Company was an extremely lightweight and good-hearted farcical comedy that depicted the ongoing hijinks of two girls in desperate need of a roommate who turns up in the form of a guy that they find passed out in the bathtub after their going-away party for their prior roommate. The chemistry between stars Joyce DeWitt, John Ritter, and Suzanne Summers, well, it was immediately apparent. Just watching those early episodes, you can see how much fun that they were all having working together. When it works, it's magic, and you can see it on the screen. When a casting director fails at his or her job, however, it can be disastrous. Fortunately for those involved with Three's Company, the creative folks behind the scenes were all immensely talented people. At some future point, I'll probably devote an entire video to Suzanne Summers' departure from the show. End of the day, she was looking to get the same salary as John Ritter. Looking back, that doesn't feel like a ridiculous request. Ultimately, however, the network balked and walked away from the negotiating table. Both Jenny Lee Harrison and Priscilla Barnes were great, but I will admit that Suzanne was missed. But you know what they say, the show must go on. And go on it did. And throughout it all, Joyce DeWitt was there, a constant, loyal to everyone involved in making the show, especially to John Ritter. She loved working with John, and he felt the same way. As time went on, it felt like the show was moving in a particular direction with the development of these two characters. It felt like they were becoming more than friends. There were little hints that a romance might be brewing. There was a flirtatious air between the two characters on many of the episodes. And quite frankly, from everything that I've read, I believe that Joyce was way on board with the idea that when the show finally went off the air, these two wonderful characters might end up together. Unfortunately, that was not what the producers of the show had in mind. They were following a roadmap that had been created by the original British version of the show. First, they spun off the Ropers, just like the British show did with their show George and Mildred. And now the producers were looking at what the UK version of the show did after Man About the House ended. The British version of Jack Tripper, named Robin Tripp, did not end up with one of his roommates. Instead, he found love elsewhere, and the show was spun off as Robin's Nest, which was very successful and ran for 6 seasons. So, during that 8th and final season of Three's Company, we were introduced to a new character, Vicky Bradford, played by Mary Carteret. Jack is instantly smitten with her, and over the course of a handful of episodes, a courtship ensues, with Jack and Vicky ultimately moving in together against her father's wishes. Classic sitcom material, right? Maybe, but I can't help but think about how difficult this must have been for Joyce. She had been fiercely loyal to everyone involved with the show since the very beginning, and now it was planning to move on without her. Always the consummate professional, you would never know the end was near watching her perform with John and Mary. With each passing episode, it was kinda like they were making her dig her own grave, metaphorically speaking. And audiences in the US must have felt just a little bit betrayed as well. Instead of the Jack and Janet romance that we'd seen hinted at for most of the show's 8 seasons, we got Vicky and Jack, and their new Janet-less show, Three's a Crowd, debuting in the fall of 1984, just 1 week after the final primetime airing of Three's Company. The new show was not a hit. It would last just 1 season. I can't help but feel like if we'd just gotten a slightly different show, with a couple of actors that had proven their chemistry with each other for years, the outcome of Three's a Crowd, or whatever they might have decided to call it, would have been very different. It's just my opinion, and I could be wrong, but it's also my opinion that a decision to involve Joyce in the spin-off would have been the right thing to do. However, Hollywood doesn't have the best reputation for always doing the right thing. Like I said, although Joyce was brokenhearted by the turn of events, this isn't a particularly sad story. You see, after making a few appearances on other shows, Joyce decided to take some time away from the industry, to regroup, relax a bit, and rediscover just exactly who she was. And she discovered that she enjoyed performing in live theater. Every now and again, Joyce will emerge from her beautiful New Mexico home, tucked away in near seclusion, to perform with great actors such as Tab Hunter and one of my favorites, Tony Dow from Leave It to Beaver. She has also recently co-starred with Mickey Dolenz, yep, one of the Monkees, in a play called Comedy is Hard, where he plays an aging comedian and she plays an aging actress. Something tells me that they might be able to pull those roles off. From everything that I've heard, the play is hilarious, but it will also touch your heart in unexpected ways. How about we get a movie version of this play? For those of us who might not get a chance to see it live, I would definitely go see it for these two wonderful actors. Joyce also recently reunited with her former Three's Company co-star Suzanne Summers. After a warm greeting, Joyce sat down with Suzanne and reminisced about the good times that they had together so many years ago. It was wonderful to see these two ladies together again, and one can't help but hope that at some future point they find a project to work on together. How about a show about Janet and Chrissy in their golden years? A comedic drama about two friends long separated but brought together by the death of their dear friend Jack. I would be so on board for that. In the meantime, Joyce seems to really be making a name for herself in live theater. While it affords her the ability to pop out of the woodwork every now and again and do what she does best, the less hectic pace that she maintains by staying away from the camera allows her to remain grounded and be her authentic self. So that's it. One final picture. Jack and Janet really were wonderful friends. And boy oh boy were they funny together. Anyway, what do you think? Did you like Three's a Crowd, or were you disappointed by the decision to jettison Janet for that new girl, Vicky? Let me know what you think in the comments section, and while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I would be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Okay, well, I have just been reading everything that's going on in the chat, and wow, what a great group of people we've got here today. Huge thank you to everyone who's joined me this evening, and a even bigger thank you to those channel members, those folks that are my super fans that are joining this evening. I see Superplex there. We've got Lance Chaffin, Tracy Roth Myers, Jill Carter. Pat McCormack is here as well. John Collins, lots of folks. Lance Chaffin, I believe I mentioned him already. Just a great group of people in the chat this evening. And we have another super chat here, this one from John Collins. I want to make sure I highlight that. So let me go over here. And John says, I know I said I'm going to slow down on the super chatting, which is perfectly fine, John. Perfectly fine. He says, thank you so much for all that you do. Yes, Remind Magazine is coming, my friend. So, boy, do I love that magazine. Thanks for the reminder on that. And thank you for all of your support.
Someone is trying to embarrass me.
Yeah, as Spidey says, thank you for your support, good sir. Truly appreciated, and hope you're enjoying tonight's GSTV format. You were the one that, one of the individuals who requested that I return to doing this every now and again. So here we go. Let's keep moving. Next up, we have a couple of, we're going to do some commercials. I like to make sure we take care of our vintage sponsors. So there's some vintage commercials starring some of the actors who were in Three's Company. and we'll just go from there. And if needs be, if for any reason there's a reason for me to pop back in and visit a little bit more, I certainly will do so. All right, let's do this. Click on a few different buttons and we'll fire up those commercials.
Tuesday, Janet, Jack, and Chrissy spend a crazy Christmas with the Ropers.
Everybody dance.
On Three's Company. Then it's a special day and time for fish.
I'm Santa Claus.
You got any identification?
A special fish after Three's Company. Tuesday night starting at 9.
Hey, watch this.
Lifesavers Roll Candy takes Suzanne Summers back home.
I did that better when I was a kid here in San Bruno, California, because my dad would give me cherry Lifesavers for every cartwheel. So I did lots of them, because I'd do anything for Lifesavers candy and Dad. Juicy, good Lifesavers. They're like coming home again to San Bruno. I still love them both.
Sunday at a special time, 8, 7 Central and Mountain. They're back. Your favorite network stars are giving it all they've got on the all-new Battle of the Network Stars.
I love you.
Then, it's John Ritter in his first TV special.
A lot of people think that my sense of humor is my best asset.
They're wrong.
With Suzanne Summers, Joyce DeWitt, and David Doyle. All on the John Ritter special.
Tomorrow starting at 8, 7 Central and Mountain on ABC.
Channel 12, WISN-TV, Milwaukee.
A smooth look is a sexy look, and it's yours with Undie Legs. The pantyhose with a stay-put panty. Undie Legs go under the clingiest of clothes, erasing wrinkly panty lines forever. All that's left is you.
Stretching, bending, standing. There's one pantyhose that's always fitting. Nothing beats a great pair of legs.
Now save up to $1.20 on Undie Legs pantyhose.
Great legs.
Thank you.
How do you get them?
I used to do aerobics till I dropped. Then I found Thigh Master. Every single time you squeeze Thigh Master, you strengthen and tone right where you need it. So it's easy to squeeze your way to shapely hips and thighs. I thought I'd never fit into these jeans again. Thank you, Thigh Master.
I recommend it and use it.
The secret to shapely thighs is exercising these muscles with just the right resistance. This balance resistance coil is designed to give you results quickly and comfortably. Want to tone your upper chest and arms? Thigh Master will give you excellent results. Thigh Master. We may not have been born with great legs, but now we can look like we were.
To order your Thigh Master, call 1-800-247-3000. Have your credit card ready or send check or money order for $19.95 plus $4.50 for shipping and handling to this address. No CODs, please.
3 blonde mates. 3 blonde mates. See how they change. See how they change.
Jack and Janet were always there.
Learning to who had blonde hair.
Who they were, they didn't care.
As long as they were blonde. 3 blonde mates.
3 blonde mates.
See how they change.
See how they change.
The first one Cindy was Cindy was slow.
Cindy was next and she had to go.
Harry was in till the end of the school. And they're all on Nick at night.
Weeknight, back, starting at 11:10.
Hi, we're New Edition, and we're here to introduce the great new taste of Coca-Cola, the taste of today.
Yeah, Coke is it. Come on, check it out now. It's got a new taste. It's a destiny. Wow, a great event. It's hip, it's here. A big smash hit. And making it free. It's the way that you feel. It goes to me. This new taste is a hit. Coke is it, Coke is it.
Recently, an independent research firm ran a taste test between Coke and Pepsi. And the taste more people chose was the taste of Coca-Cola. Yes, more people all across the country, when comparing Coke to Pepsi, chose the taste of Coke as the better taste. Let's look at it this way. We gave America a choice, and more people said Coke is it.
It's a hit. It's a Coke. Coke is it.
Can somebody out there tell me why Coke did it? Why they changed? First, they said they were the real thing. Then they said they were it. Then kablooey, they changed. So now, I'm going to try my first Pepsi. But I still want to know why Coke changed. Now I know why.
Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
I'm Don Keogh, president of the Coca-Cola Company. When we brought you the new taste of Coke, we knew that millions would prefer it, and millions do. And we knew that it would beat the taste of our major competitor, and it does. What we didn't know was how many thousands of you would phone and write asking us to bring back the classic taste of original Coca-Cola. Well, we read and we listened, and you know the rest. They're both yours, the new taste of Coke and Coca-Cola Classic. Your right of choice is back.
All right, I am back because while I was playing those videos, we had a super sticker pop in from Dominic D, and I just wanted to say thank you to Dominic for the support this evening. I hope everybody is enjoying this format. GSTV is something that I do from time to time, which is, I'm at the command center here picking the videos. Most of them are going to be about Three's Company tonight, but there'll be other videos as well. But I certainly want to express my appreciation to Dominic for their support. And let me see, how can I best do that?
And now, it's time for a little dance, and here we go.
Thank you, Dominic. Your support is truly, truly appreciated. All right. So next up, we're going to do, we're going to focus a little bit on Ms. Suzanne Summers. So a couple of videos coming up. The first one is a video that I titled In Defense of Suzanne Summers. And then following that, we're going to play a clip from the Donnie and Marie show that Suzanne was in, along with Paul Lynde and the great Betty White. So without any further ado, here we go. In the late 70s, I really don't know if there was a television actress hotter than Suzanne Summers. To a young teenage boy such as myself, she seemed to have come from out of nowhere. I now know that's not the case. In fact, Summers had been working hard trying to make it in showbiz since the late 60s. Her early television work included shows like The Anniversary Game, Man Trap, The Rockford Files, and Starsky and Hutch. And fans of George Lucas might remember her in a little movie called American Graffiti. But it was the ABC television network sitcom Three's Company that would propel Summers into the stratosphere of superstardom. On that show, she played Chrissy Snow, a stereotypical ditzy blonde. Not the most original type of role, but Summers was somehow able to make the character into something more. Sure, some of the credit has to go to the talented creative team behind the scenes, but Suzanne deserves equal credit as well. Over the next few seasons of the show, she molded Chrissy into someone who seemed to be much more than just a cartoon-esque caricature. So I imagine you might be asking yourself, okay, but when is this narrator going to talk about Alan Hamill, Suzanne's husband and business manager? Well, I've got some bad news. I'm not going to say much about the dude. I'm not prepared to cast judgment on the level of influence that he had on Suzanne. He was, after all, her husband. And it goes without saying that when you embark on a serious relationship, you should probably pay some level of attention to the opinions that your partner might offer up. And if your partner believes that you are severely underpaid and suggests that you play hardball when it comes time to renegotiate your contract, well, you'd probably listen to him or her, just like Suzanne did. And I think most of you know how this story ended. She found herself out of work. Much of her final season of the show, in fact, was relegated to brief 1-minute segments at the end of each episode. The way the whole thing played out was infuriating for her castmates and embarrassing for her. It certainly didn't play out the way that she or her husband had planned. The look here on Suzanne's face probably does a good job of conveying how she felt once she realized that the hit show that she had been part of since the very first episode, well, they were going to move on without her. Still, if you're Suzanne, you do your very best to put on a brave face. Show the world that you're ready to move on as well. I think this cover of People magazine is so very, very telling. Out of a job, estranged from friends Ritter and DeWitt, it had to be a very tough time for Suzanne. I'm guessing at that particular moment in time, there were two people that she felt like had her back, her husband and herself. And then to make matters worse, the offers dried up. I can only imagine how Suzanne felt. She'd been under the impression that if Three's Company didn't work out, there would be a deal for her with CBS. The Suzanne Summers show would be a sitcom where she played a stewardess, but really, a very similar character to the one that she played on Three's Company. But for whatever reason, and speculation varies depending on who you ask, the CBS show went poof and evaporated into thin air. So Suzanne, being a fairly resilient woman, packed her bags and took her talents to Vegas. Somewhere along the way, 1986 I believe, Ms. Summers was named the Las Vegas Female Entertainer of the Year. Do I smell a comeback? Not yet, my friends, not yet. Around the same time, Suzanne became a spokesperson for the most amazing exercise product ever. Yes, we're talking about the Thigh Master. Now let's be clear, I'm not sure that I am the target consumer for this particular product, and yet, for whatever reason, when that infomercial came on, I watched. How could you not? Suzanne made using that thing look so darn fun. And when she wasn't singing her heart out in Vegas or pitching a product on infomercials, Suzanne also volunteered some of her time to entertain our troops. Here she is with another one of my favorite entertainers, Marie Osmond. And then, wouldn't you know it, a TV deal came her way. The show wasn't on one of the major networks. It was to be sold to syndicated markets. But it was a TV show, and a sitcom at that. Suzanne ran with it, and for 2 years during the late 80s, we really did believe that she was the sheriff. At that point, I think it is fair to say that her comeback was in full swing. Sealing the deal, step by step, put to end the doubts of anyone who thought that Suzanne was a flash in the pan. Nope, her turn is a modern-day Carol Brady on this ABC TV TGIF sitcom, which debuted in 1991, demonstrated once and for all just how good Summers was with comedy. While I was happy for Suzanne, I couldn't help but be a little sad for Mark Harris. Patrick Duffy. The guy who had taught me to swim like a dolphin in his short-lived NBC science fiction series, The Man from Atlantis. Yep, Duffy's cool factor had sunk just a few notches with this role. Still, it was steady work and would be for 7 seasons. Suzanne had also started to gain traction as an author of diet and health books. Along with that, in 2003, Hollywood finally acknowledged what many of us fans knew all along. The lady was a star. Still, something was missing for Suzanne. Sure, she had the love of her husband Alan. Their marriage had been rock solid through both the highs and lows. And yes, she had a lot of friends. But there were 2 friends who she hadn't spoke to for years. So you can imagine her surprise when one day she got a phone call from John Ritter, totally out of the blue, while she was getting her hair done in a beauty salon. In true John Ritter fashion, he said to Suzanne, "I forgive you." Over the course of the next few minutes, they talked about maybe appearing on his TV show 8 Simple Rules, or perhaps even a completely distinct project for the two of them. When the call was over, Suzanne was hopeful that maybe, just maybe, the bridge had started to mend. Sadly, it was only a couple of weeks later that John suddenly and tragically passed away. Next up was a reunion with Joyce DeWitt. Suzanne's people got in touch with her people and invited her to be a guest on Suzanne's talk show. And just like that, before you knew it, the two of them were together again, on screen, reliving the old days, both the highs and the lows that come with working in show business. Without a doubt, at times it has been a rocky road for Suzanne, but if you look at her career in its totality, it has been an absolutely great one. She's been married to the same man for over 40 years. Holy cow, Batman, that is a long time. And during that time, she has found a way to stay in the public eye. Simply put, this lady is a survivor. She has survived smart choices, and she has survived not so smart ones. She's always found a way to get up when she's hit the ground, and I suspect that she's learned a thing or two along the way. So that's it. One last picture. Wow, those three really did have such awesome chemistry. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know in the comments section, and while you're at it, I would love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I would be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
Tab Cola has a beautiful taste, so good for beautiful people. Tab Cola, beautiful to you and me, 'cause every can has less than 2 calories. Tab Cola looks a beautiful shape, just right for beautiful people. Tab Cola tastes so good to you. Great taste, low calorie. Tab.
All right, I'm back. Sorry for that little delay there. Didn't realize there was such a long pause at the end of that video. Anyway, I did want to pop in here because I saw the comments about Tab in the chat and had to play the classic Elle Macpherson commercial with her holding a tab and great theme song, or jingle, right? Great Tab jingle from the early 80s, probably even late 70s. I think they were using that jingle, and a lot of fun. And I am actually one of those who drink a lot of Tab, although I do not prefer it to Diet Coke or Coke Zero. So wanted to draw attention to a particular comment from superfan Buddy Mills. He says, "Nice to be here tonight. Recently diagnosed with cancer, and it's nice to have something to take my mind off it for a while." Well, I'm so glad that I can help you take your mind off it, but I am just devastated to hear that, Buddy, and you are in my thoughts, and I certainly pass on my well wishes, and I hope the best for you. I was reading in the comments in the chat. It looks like it's esophageal cancer, and well, I just hope everything goes okay for you. So you're in my thoughts, and wanted to let you know that I saw that comment and wanted to acknowledge it. And I appreciate your support as a super fan, Buddy. All right. Also, there was another comment, a question from John Collins. He was asking, when you go to the restaurant and they serve Coke, is it new Coke or classic Coke? Everything's classic at this point, unless it's Coke Zero, which is not the new Coke formulation. That's a different formulation itself. So you're pretty safe in knowing that that's classic Coke. All right. So we still haven't played the Donnie and Marie video with Suzanne Summers. We're going to do that next. And then after that, we'll be kind of moving on from Suzanne to a little bit of Richard Kline and then even some Ann Wedgeworth action. So let's go ahead and get rolling.
from time to time, but you just wouldn't listen or pay us no mind. You're moving on.
Keep moving on.
No use to let you here with us. You're moving on. If you've been back to back another day, but if you've been good, step right this way. Get moving on. You're moving on.
Before you start to slide, just jump inside and keep moving on. You're only halfway to heaven, so you better keep moving on.
All right, one Halo adjustable gold filled. M1429 unisex. Step up here, please.
Papers, please. Next. Papers.
Where are we? That's what I was afraid of. Oh, hold it, bright eyes. Where do you think you're going?
Home. There's no place like home.
Oh, I get it. You're Dorothy, and you and Toto here are headed for Kansas.
No, man. We're rock stars, and we're overdue for a heavy gig.
Yeah, so thanks for the warm welcome, but we really can't stay.
Much prefer to feel the earth groove under our feet and see the sun setting on down. We appreciate your hospitality, but we'd rather be on solid ground. Hey, hey, what you say? We'll be glad to come back some other day. Send us back down below. Be a sport and let us go. How do you expect us to pursue a career unless we're staying alive? Staying alive. There isn't much to live for rock and rollin' up here, so if we're staying alive, staying alive. Ha, 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 ha. Staying alive, staying alive. Ha, 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 ha. Staying alive. Staying alive.
Now look, man, you made a big mistake. We're supposed to be doing a rock concert in Des Moines. We're alive.
Trust me, I saw that concert. You were dying out there.
No. That's just an expression, a figure of speech.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we shouldn't be here. We don't belong here. And
We don't
like
like
it here.
Nonsense! This is a wonderful place.
Nice work, Big Mouth. Now you've alerted our boss. Tell him what a swell place it is up here, Miss Jordan.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. You couldn't have come to a niftier place, my dear.
So, if you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where heaven sits? It's better than the Ritz. Every time our famous final bell goes, here's where every famous fashion swell goes. Rubbing elbows. Come and mix where Beethoven, Brahms, and Verdi sit and compare the latest hits. You can keep the Grand or the Palace, the Park or the Plaza. We got them all 2 bits. It's better than the Ritz. It's better than the Ritz. It's better than the Ritz.
Look, lady, I don't care how nice it is up here. We're not due here yet. There's been a big mistake.
Oh, nonsense. Our people never, ever make mistakes except for a few of ours. Oh, it's you two nitwits again.
All right, so we grabbed him a little early, but it was all his fault.
My fault? You're the one who spilled nectar and ambrosia all over the files.
Well, never mind. Take them back this instant.
We seem to have temporarily misplaced their earthly forms, Miss Jordan.
Oh, swell. Oh, that's just great.
Yeah.
2 rock stars with nothing to rock in. Well, don't worry. We'll find you somewhere. Meanwhile, you can be anyone from history, anyone you want. Let's see. How about that famous rock duo, Napoleon and Josephine?
Napoleon. Honey, stop sulking. You have conquered the world. What more do you want?
What I want, baby, you got what I need. You know you got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect. When I come home, baby, when I come home, respect. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, just give that to me. Suck me, 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 suck me. So respect, yeah!
I could have married a nice dentist. Oh, no. I had to marry a man who is hooked on war. Ding-dong, a-lang, boom, ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo. Life could be a dream. Kaboom! Being a doctor or a nurse. Kaboom! Perhaps a plumber or an Easter plumber's friend. Life could be a dream, sweetheart. But there he goes again. Explosions out of my nose again. Kaboom! 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 Kaboom!
I don't think so. I don't blame you.
Angiogram for Miss Jordan. Angiogram.
Here, would you hold this?
Did you ever think of putting elevators in this place?
Well, I have good news and bad news. The good news is your earthly forms have been found, and you open in Dayton tonight.
All right!
Okay, now. The bad news is that it seems that none of us are supposed to be here now, and we're all unemployed.
Oh, wonderful. I haven't been on Earth for 600 years. How am I supposed to make a living?
Well, with your keen mind and your brilliant record, you could probably get a nice job in the post office.
Wait a minute. You all sing, and we do need a good backup group.
That's right.
Maybe we accept.
Great. Places everyone for the big going home number. Hey, folks, you found GSTV. That stands for Good Stuff Television. We celebrate entertainment from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. And the cool thing about GSTV, you never know what's coming up next.
Hey, folks, if you're enjoying this live stream, be like the Fonz and give it a thumbs up. Hey.
One of the reasons that Three's Company worked so well is because of the unique cast of characters on that show. One of my absolute favorites was this guy, used car salesman Larry Dallas, as played by the wonderful Richard Kline. Kline's portrayal of Jack Tripper's best friend Larry helped Three's Company become the major hit that it was for the ABC television network. The show premiered in 1977 and would be a solid ratings winner for most of its 8 seasons. From the get-go, the show had an extremely talented cast. I've talked at length about many of the other cast members in other videos on my channel. I'll post links to a couple of them at the end of this one. So as I said, Kline played Jack's best friend Larry, and his portrayal of that character was so much fun because although at times the writers had his character border on being just a tad bit sleazy and leering,
always something of a schemer, at his core, Larry Dallas was a good person and a faithful friend to Jack. I'm not certain that there is another actor out there who could have pulled off the character of Larry the way that Richard did. And because of that, audiences really connected with Larry, who, by the way, seldom connected with the ladies, despite his best efforts. While on Three's Company, Richard made an appearance on The Love Boat, one of my favorite TV shows from the late 70s and early 80s. The Love Boat thrived on its casting decisions, and bringing Richard on board for an episode definitely was a good idea. This was a rare appearance for Richard outside of Three's Company during the show's run. Quite frankly, he was very loyal to that show. And because of that, the show was loyal to him. He was a favorite of both cast members and the behind-the-scenes crew. Richard was a great guy and easy to get along with, and as such, as time rolled on, Larry Dallas seemed to make more and more appearances, so much so that he found himself on the opening credits of the show as a regular when Season 4 premiered on ABC. Of course, Season 5 of the show was a bit of a cluster due to the whole Suzanne Summers contract negotiations mess. It ultimately ended up getting her fired from the show, but Richard was there along with the other remaining cast members doing their very best, and when the dust settled, his character was an even more prominent member of the show. So much so that TV Guide included him on a cover featuring the primary cast members in 1982. Richard has also the distinct honor of being the only cast member to appear on Three's Company, The Ropers, and then Three's a Crowd. Quite frankly, Three's a Crowd could have used more cast members from Three's Company showing up every now and again. But that's a story for another day. What isn't a story for another day is the very real and authentic friendship that John Ritter and Richard Kline had. These guys never lost touch and got together whenever they could, long after the end of Three's Company. In fact, if I remember correctly, Richard shared not too long ago that just weeks before Ritter's passing, he and John had attended a baseball game together. After Three's Company ended, Richard found steady work, both as a semi-regular on the sitcom It's a Living, as well as by making guest appearances on other network television shows like Matlock and Murder, She Wrote. And he was also involved in the relaunch of the game show To Tell the Truth, filming the pilot for Mark Goodson's game show production company. Unfortunately, when the show did finally make it back to the airwaves, Richard had left the project. Which is too darn bad because there is a fun connection there. Years before he had made it big on Three's Company, Richard had been a game show contestant on the $10,000 Pyramid. Yep, these game shows are in his blood. In fact, according to Wikipedia, Richard still dreams of someday being a contestant on Jeopardy! After that, Richard continued to make more television appearances. You see, even though this is a whatever happened to video, the real answer to that question is the guy just kept plugging along. It seems to me that the work ethic that he maintained so many years ago never waned. As such, during the 90s, Kline made guest appearances on shows like LA Law, Step by Step, and Married with Children. And somewhere along the way, Richard decided to become a coach. From everything that I've been able to gather, he just wanted to share the joy that he'd experienced for decades with others. And he has always treated his acting workshops in exactly the same way that he has every other gig throughout his career. He gives it his all, 100% of Richard. These workshops are not just a way to pay the bills. They truly seem to be a passion project for him. And Richard can still be seen on screen. He's made appearances in a couple of fairly recent Adam Sandler flicks like I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, as well as Jack and Jill. And even more recently, Richard has toured the country in a national production of Waitress, taking over the role that Andy Griffith made famous in the movie that the play is based upon. One of the coolest things that Richard has done recently was attend Antenna TV's Three's Company 40th Anniversary Cast Reunion. The whole thing is available to view right here on YouTube on Antenna TV's official channel. And the cast is so much fun to listen to as they recall many of their fondest moments from a show that truly made pop culture history. So that's it. Let's close with this picture. I absolutely love this image, and do I really need to say anything about it? After all these years, Joyce and Richard are still good friends, and that's the way it should be. Two great people who for many years have entertained us in so many different ways. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments section, and while you're at it, I would love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And I would be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
Looks like you need some help, huh? Do you speak any English?
Nej, svenska. Men titta, om du vet med några...
How about a Coke?
Coke?
Drink.
Vad är det för något?
Coke.
Coca-Cola!
Where to?
Just down to the next gas station.
Saturday on WKRP.
I've done thousands of promotions in my day.
But not like this.
Turkeys are hitting the ground like sacks of wet cement.
Tonight on CBS.
Nestle Crunch, the blend of milk chocolate and crispy crunchies that's music to your mouth.
Creamy milk chocolate is the melody. Crispy crunchies are the harmony. The two together are music to munch. Let's hum a few bars of Nestle Crunch. Toe tap and tantalize and have you feeling appetizing. Nestle Crunch is music, sweet music to your mouth.
A day in the life of a Commodore 64. The Commodore 64. Once you get it, you'll wonder how you got along without it.
Lana, Lana, Lana. It feels like I hardly knew you. That said, while your time on Three's Company was brief, I still feel like it's worth talking about. And let me state for the record that I think the producers of Three's Company were wrong to let the actress who played you go. And even though I'm a huge John Ritter fan, I think he was wrong as well. I don't think it would have been out of character for him to have been attracted to you. But hey, I'm just a fan of the show. A fan who was bummed that Anne wasn't allowed all of season 4 to flesh out your character before she was asked to part ways. From everything that I've read, it seems like Anne really had her heart set on making the show work. Heck, she even moved from New York to California to make this thing happen. And why wouldn't she? Three's Company was at the top of its game. Sure, the Ropers, they'd moved on, but Don Knotts' Mr. Furley was a fun replacement. And the show still had the magical combination of Jack, Janet, and Chrissy as roommates. I have to agree with Anne. What could go wrong, Lana? It really seemed like a sure thing. I remember reading a TV Guide article about Anne at the time, talking about taking chances. In that article, she talked about the disappointment that she'd felt when she didn't get the part that had made her famous on Broadway in the movie version of Neil Simon's Chapter 2. I believe the role went to Valerie Harper, and Anne talked about the gut-wrenching feedback that she'd been given that she wasn't a household name. Anne was hoping that you, Lana, would help make her more familiar with TV audiences, and that would translate into more film roles. I mean, it's not like Anne hadn't been in movies, major motion pictures like Scarecrow and Bang the Drum Slowly, but for whatever reason, the producers of Chapter 2, they just didn't feel like she was well known enough to take her Tony Award-winning performance to the silver screen. But 9 episodes! Yeah, 9 episodes is all we got of you, Lana. And it's not like you weren't funny. In fact, I'd say Anne's comedic chops, well, they were right up there with the rest of the cast. Anytime you can count a character's appearances on a TV show on both hands, I think it's fair to say that the character wasn't given the chance to appropriately develop and connect with their intended audience. And that was definitely true for you, Lana. I missed you when you suddenly disappeared, but truthfully, it wasn't a deep sense of loss. You weren't around all that long. It has only been after repeated viewings of those season 4 episodes in which you appeared that I've realized how truly tragic it was that Anne wasn't allowed more time. Fortunately, the 90s brought about another opportunity for Ann to demonstrate just how wonderful she could be on the tiny screen. Burt Reynolds' show Evening Shade on CBS would finally give her the chance to show everyone that you, Lana, if you'd been given the appropriate amount of time, could have been every bit as wonderful as Marlene. Ann had a way of taking these smaller roles and turning them into something very special. She was fearless, really, at least on screen. Off screen, however, it was a very different story. From everything that I've read, I understand that there were times when Ann would get really down, and she'd have to muster every bit of positivity from within to shake herself out of her funk. I don't think you would have been like that at all, Lana. But you know what? We'll never know. We truly will never know. Okay, let's close this video out with this picture. If not Jack, then how about Mr. Furley as a match for you, Lana? Too old? I don't know. But I'm betting Ann would have thought so. Alright, please share your memories in the comment section below, and while you're at it, I would appreciate it if you clicked on the thumbs up icon. And why not consider whether or not you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel? I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
Hey folks, you've found GSTV. That stands for Good Stuff Television. We celebrate entertainment from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. And the cool thing about GSTV, you never know what's coming up next.
Okay, I admit it. I am a huge fan of the sitcom Three's Company that ran on ABC TV for 8 seasons during the late 70s and early 80s. The show was just silly and fun, and despite a bunch of cast member changes throughout the show's run, for the most part, it just worked as lightweight, escapist entertainment during a time when many folks needed a break from the harsh realities of the world. And the chemistry between the original stars of the show, Joyce DeWitt, John Ritter, and Suzanne Summers, it was immediately apparent. Just watching those early episodes, you can see how much fun they were having working together. When it works, folks, it's magic. You can see it on the screen. However, when a casting director fails at his or her job, well, it can be disastrous. Fortunately, for those involved with Three's Company, the creative folks behind the scenes were all immensely talented people. And throughout it all, Joyce DeWitt was there, a constant, loyal to everyone involved in the making of the show, and especially loyal to John Ritter. As time went on, it felt like the show was moving in a particular direction with the development of their two characters. It felt like they were becoming more than friends. There were little hints that a romance might be brewing. There was a flirtatious air between the two characters on many of the episodes, and quite frankly, from everything that I've read, I believe that Joyce was on board with the idea that when the show finally went off the air, that these two wonderful characters, well, they might end up together. And it's an idea that I really liked as well. Yes, there are those that will argue that these two walking down the aisle together would have been disastrous, but you know what? Married life is often a comedy of errors as two people get to know each other and learn that love is so much more than just infatuation. Unfortunately, that was not what the producers of the show had in mind. So, during that 8th and final season of Three's Company, we were introduced to a new character, Vicky Bradford, played by Mary Carteret. Jack is instantly smitten with her, and over the course of a handful of episodes, a courtship ensues with Jack and Vicky ultimately moving in together, against her father's wishes. Classic sitcom material, right? Well, that's what the producers of Three's Company thought. Debuting in the fall of 1984, just 1 week after the final primetime airing of Three's Company, a new Janet-less spin-off called Three's a Crowd hit the airwaves, and I think audiences in the U.S. felt a little bit betrayed. Instead of the Jack and Janet romance that we'd seen hinted at, we got Vicky and Jack. Suffice it to say, the new show was not a hit. It would last just 1 season. Interestingly, although Joyce DeWitt never made a guest appearance on Three's a Crowd, Janet was never forgotten by the fans, and I'd like to think by good old Jack Tripper himself as well. So with all that said, here are 5 big reasons why Jack and Janet, Well, they should have ended up together at the end of Three's Company. Reason number one is simple. It's the chemistry between these two wonderful actors. Clearly, Joyce and John enjoyed working together, and while I'm sure there were moments during those 8 seasons where they may have gotten on each other's nerves a little bit, end of the day, they had a great deal of respect for each other, which showed up on the screen episode after episode. Reason number two, Joyce didn't want to leave. And from everything I've read, it seemed like the producers were well aware of that fact. She was happy working on the show, and if they had made the decision to create a spin-off where Jack and Janet finally rode off into the sunset together, well, I think they knew that she would have been 100% on board with the idea. Reason number three is the fans didn't want her to leave either. Along with John Ritter and Richard Kline, who was invited to make a guest appearance on Three's a Crowd, by the way, Joyce had been there from day one. And those of us who loved the show simply didn't want to see her go. You see, it's kind of like going to a restaurant that you really like and being super excited to order your favorite meal, but the chef insists on making you something completely different. Maybe it isn't bad, but it isn't what you wanted. That's how I felt when Jack left Janet for Vicky. You know, in 1981, the Kinks released a killer album titled Give the People What They Want. It has some great songs on it, and it's exactly the type of up-tempo rock music that fans of the band wanted. The producers of Three's Company really could have taken a cue from the band and the title of that record. In short, Three's a Crowd did not give the people what they wanted. Which brings us to big reason number 4. The spin-off that we really wanted never happened. Joyce wanted it, the fans wanted it, but for whatever reason, perhaps it was to reduce the show's budget, the creative people behind the scenes couldn't see the obvious thing to do. I'm quite confident that a Three's Company spin-off with Jack and Janet together would have been a hit. Well, at the very least, it would have drawn a bigger television audience than Three's a Crowd did. And lastly, the 5th reason why Jack and Janet should have ended up together is because both characters deserved that ending. Forget about what the fans wanted. Instead, let's focus on the characters for just a minute. These two truly deserved each other. They deserved a very different happily ever after than the one that the show's writers concocted for them. In particular, Janet's whirlwind courtship with fine arts dealer Philip Dawson was just plain irritating. You know, maybe it all worked out for the best anyway. After taking some time off, Joyce has really seemed to make a name for herself in live theater. She starred with Tab Hunter and Tony Dow in the romantic comedy Love Letters, as well as Mickey Dolenz, yep, one of the monkeys, in a play called Comedy is Hard, where he plays an aging comedian and she plays an aging actress. Live theater has provided Joyce with the ability to pop out of the woodwork every now and again and do what she does best, while maintaining a less hectic pace that allows her to remain grounded and be her authentic self. So that's it. One final picture. Jack and Janet really were wonderful friends. And boy, oh boy, were they funny together. Anyway, what do you think? Did you like Three's a Crowd, or were you disappointed by the decision to jettison Janet for that new girl Vicky? Let me know what you think in the comments section, and while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And I would be honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching. There are lots of reasons why I loved the Green Hornet growing up. Despite its relatively short run on television, the TV show with Bruce Lee as Kato and Van Williams as the Hornet was really well executed and so much fun to watch. I loved the theme music, the Black Beauty, and all of the Green Hornet's other amazing gadgets like the Hornet Sting, which would unlock any door and render other devices useless. Of course, it didn't hurt that the Green Hornet came from the same folks that brought us this show. That said, I'm glad that William Dozier and team decided not to treat the Green Hornet in the same campy way that they did Batman. I was such a fan of the show that my dad brought me this book home from a business trip, and I'm pretty sure he read it to me multiple times as I would try to fall asleep. Quick sidebar to give a shout out to the recent reunion of Green Hornet and Batman in comic book form. It's a pitch perfect callback to both of these great TV shows. Hello, everybody. I am back. Yes, I'm still here. I'm manning the main control board here at Good Stuff TV, GSTV. But I wanted to pop in and hopefully check in with everybody. Hopefully you're enjoying the format tonight. But I also wanted to say thank you. I noticed in the chat that James Harrington has become a member of the channel, a super fan, if you will. And I wanted to say thank you to James for his support. It's truly appreciated. I love it when people decide to become super fans of the channel. You know, I don't know. There are things that I try to do for the super fans. I do my best to respond to all of their comments. I typically I try to provide advance viewing of the videos before they're published. And we have a once a month live stream where I invite the super fans to participate. So it's a more intimate type live stream, and it's less structured. It's more just me visiting with the super fans. So thank you, James. Truly, truly appreciated. And, you know, you and all of the other super fans of the channel, well, I could tell you what you are, but I'm going to let Fred Rogers do it.
You are special.
Thanks again, James. Truly appreciate your support. All right, so here's what we got coming up. We're going to go ahead and watch a video on Priscilla Barnes. There's some other stuff I got going, and then not too far away, we have a little bit of trivia on Three's Company. I want everybody to play along and then share your score in the chat. So without any further ado, let's keep moving. Folks, take a look into the eyes of Priscilla Barnes and you'll see the steady, even-keeled gaze of an entertainment industry survivor. A woman who, no matter what came her way, figured out how to emerge triumphant. So just what in the world am I talking about? After all, aren't we just talking about the actress who played smart and sexy nurse Terry Alden on Three's Company? Yeah, we are. But there is so much more to her story. After getting discovered by none other than Bob Hope, it didn't take Priscilla long to find her way to television and movies. I'm not going to mention everything that she's done, but I will talk about a few that really resonated with me. First, there was this version of the H.G. Wells classic, The Time Machine. To this day, I love movies about time travel, and this one, which was filmed in my home state of Utah, was a solid adaptation of the novel, despite a few liberties being taken. Around the same time, Priscilla starred with fellow Utahn Deborah Klinger in the short-lived CBS TV series, The American Girls. For whatever reason, growing up, I thought this show was called The All-American Girls. But as I review the information about this show that's readily available online, I can now see that I was very, very wrong. Either that or the Mandela effect strikes again. Either way, I think this thing ran for just a handful of episodes way back in 1978. And then there was this. From the director of Roots comes a vacation gone seriously awry. Along with Agent 99 and Marcia Brady, Barnes stars in this classic TV movie as a beautiful blonde who may be a whole lot smarter, savvier, dare I say a survivor than she originally seems. This thing is something of a cult classic and definitely worth tracking down if you haven't already seen it. I think it is some of Priscilla's best work from the early stages of her career. And then this happened. It was a gig that she definitely wanted. But once Priscilla got there, she was questioning her judgment. In fact, I've read that a few episodes into Three's Company, Priscilla requested to be released from her contract. Of course, the producers were having none of that. After all, right or wrong, they felt that they'd really been through the ringer with Suzanne Summers. Her contract renegotiations ultimately left her high and dry and without a TV series, and while Jenny Lee Harrison had been a suitable replacement, at least for a while, as Chrissy's cousin Cindy, the producers felt like Barnes' new character, sweet, smart, and sexy Nurse Alden, could bring a little more substance and heft to a comedy that was truly as lightweight as they come. By the way, this wasn't the first time that Barnes had played a nurse on television. In fact, after touring the world with Bob Hope, Barnes struck up a friendship with the late, great Peter Falk, which led to her being cast as a nurse in a 1975 episode of Columbo. Apparently, nursing was in this young lady's blood. Well, at least acting like a nurse was. Alright, let's get back to the early 80s. For 72 episodes, Barnes did her very best to deliver upon what the producers asked of her. Be Suzanne's replacement, but don't be Suzanne. They didn't want another Chrissy, hence the reason behind Jenny Lee Harrison's vanishing act as Cousin Cindy. Truthfully, what they really wanted was a return to the glory days of the show when the ratings were through the roof, and at least for a while, they got that. But they also got so much more from Priscilla. Like I said, at this point, she was already a survivor in the industry. She'd seen a lot, and she knew how to deal with it. Maybe her stardom on Three's Company was a little bittersweet, and maybe she did have some regret about being there, but you know what? She tucked that regret away and turned in phenomenal performances during those final seasons of the show. Unlike co-star and great friend of this very day, Joyce DeWitt, it's likely that Priscilla wasn't disappointed when the producers decided to take the show in a different direction and spin it off as Three's a Crowd. Nope, I'm quite sure she gave Ritter and DeWitt big hugs and began planning the next phase of her career, which included an appearance in the very last Timothy Dalton Bond flick, License to Kill. Things didn't work out all that well for her character in the movie, but what was clear to anyone who was watching Barnes' career was that she had successfully graduated from television to motion pictures. And since that time, Barnes has found steady work as a character actor in a wide range of movies like the Sean Penn-directed The Crossing Guard, co-starring with Jack Nicholson, Kevin Smith's quirky comedy Mallrats, and the Rob Zombie flick The Devil's Rejects. And there were many, many more. Way too many to mention here. It's been a great career for sure. Earlier I mentioned Barnes' friendship with Joyce DeWitt, but I believe that she is also fairly close friends with Richard Kline, the actor who played Larry as well. It was fun to see all three of them along with Jenny Lee Harrison on Antenna TV's recent Three's Company 40th anniversary reunion show. Despite a rough start and some initial reservations, it's clear that Priscilla more than just survived Three's Company. She thrived during her time on that show, and decades later, I'm glad she is still around to celebrate that show with her friends. Alright, one more picture. This is a nice photo. Who wouldn't want a foot rub from Nurse Terry? I can't imagine many who would pass that up. Anyway, please share your memories in the comments section, and while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And I would be honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
Hey folks, you found GSTV. That stands for Good Stuff Television. We celebrate entertainment from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. And the cool thing about GSTV, you never know what's coming up next.
Hey folks, if you're enjoying this live stream, be like the Fonz and give it a thumbs up.
Secret Agent T.R. Sloan takes on the beautiful but deadly Seduction Squad.
Can't wait. Busy.
Robert Conrad outbonds Bond as a man called Sloan.
You know, I just love Casey Kasem. I love everything that man ever did. And, you know, he was the voiceover for NBC for many years on those promos like that one that we just watched for A Man Called Sloan. Anyway, I wanted to get to another comment, another super chat from channel member John Collins. He says, Richard Kline might be a great guy. I'm sure he is. I watched your interview. However, in truth, I would be grinning like that too if Joyce kissed me. I think he's referring to the image at the end of that video on Richard Kline of Joyce giving him a smooch on the cheek. I think we all would be smiling similarly, John. So thank you so much for the super chat. Why did I take that off so quickly? Here, let's absolutely want to express my appreciation to you in video form. Let's go with a little Archie Bunker and then a little bonus something after.
have created the ultimate weapon to defeat Austin Powers. Bring in the fembots!
I know that there are those out there who look at the first 3 seasons of Three's Company as the only ones worth watching. And I understand, I really do. First the Ropers leave for their own spin-off show, and then we had the whole Suzanne Summers contract negotiation messing things up. But you know what? I think there are just as many wonderful moments during the later seasons of the show, and a lot of that had to do with the new actors that were added in as the show progressed. And Jenny Lee Harrison was a big part of the ongoing success of that show. So let's talk a little bit about Jenny Lee. She joined Three's Company during season 5, playing Chrissy's cousin Cindy. Cindy was a cute but klutzy farm girl with enough similarities to Suzanne Summers' character that the writers didn't have to do much to the episodes that had been already written for the season. A few minor edits and voila, Chrissy's lines became Cindy's. Although Jenny Lee was a relative newcomer to TV audiences, she'd already been performing in front of huge crowds for a couple of years. You see, Jenny Lee was a Los Angeles Rams cheerleader. Yep, she was actually part of the very first squad of cheerleaders for the Rams, and that exposure led to her very first TV gig on Chips. And wouldn't you know it, on that TV show she played a cheerleader for the Los Angeles Rams. From there, Cindy started to find other opportunities, including a guest spot on a short-lived TV show starring Mark Harmon called 240 Robert. But it was the role of Cindy Snow that really thrust Jenny Lee into the limelight. I love this little snippet from a magazine article that seems to have been written by the ABC PR team themselves. As great as Jenny Lee was, I'm not sure that Three's Company viewers were really going to forget Chrissy Snow. That said, Jenny Lee was great. I really enjoyed the episodes that she appeared on during seasons 5 and 6. Truthfully, I never understood why the producers of the show decided to bring on Priscilla Barnes. I thought that the character of Cindy filled the void left by Summers' departure quite nicely. However, despite getting added to the opening title credits during season 6, that season turned out to be her last with the show, as the script centered more around Jack, Janet, and Terry. Moving on from Three's Company, Jenny Lee starred in Dallas, playing Jamie Ewing from 1984 to 1987. Her character had the honor of dying not once, but twice on that show, due to that crazy season that just turned out to be one of Bobby Ewing's dreams. And around this time, the mid-80s, it really seemed like Jenny Lee was everywhere. She was pitching Us Magazine and television ads, flexing her muscles for CBS on a couple of editions of Battle of the Network Stars. And heck, if you blinked, you missed it. But she even made a cameo in a Loverboy music video for their song Lovin' Every Minute of It. And she certainly made an impression on me in the James Garner movie Tank. I really loved that movie when it came out. Harrison was just part of a very talented cast in that movie, which also co-starred C. Thomas Howell and Mama Partridge herself, Shirley Jones. After making tons of guest appearances on television shows during the late 80s, the 90s didn't appear to be as fruitful for Jenny Lee. Sure, she made a handful of appearances in B-movies such as Illicit Behavior and Fists of Iron. But it would also seem that Jenny Lee started focusing on herself and her state of fitness, both body and mind. In 1993, she married Dr. Bruce Oppenheim, a prominent Los Angeles area chiropractor. Here he is pictured with one of his 2 children. And if the name sounds familiar, it's probably because the good doctor had been married before to another famous blonde.
But let's get back to Jenny Lee. Her love of physical fitness allowed her to find opportunities on infomercials, and the one that I remember best was for the AbFlex, a low-cost exercise device that promised amazing results if one would just consistently use it. I've got to say that I must not have been consistent enough, because my abdominal region, well, it's more of a keg than a six-pack. More recently, Jenny Lee has really embraced her Three's Company roots by appearing at various conventions and other events where fans can visit and get autographs. And along with Richard Kline, Joyce DeWitt, and Priscilla Barnes, she also participated in the Three's Company 40th Anniversary TV show. That reunion show has been uploaded to YouTube by Antenna TV and can be found on their channel. If you're a fan of Three's Company, you need to watch this show. Now, if you are a super fan of Three's Company, it would appear that Antenna TV has also sponsored a cruise where Jenny Lee and her co-star Richard Kline were along for the ride. I'm not sure if there are any more slated for the future, but I'm sure there were many opportunities during that cruise to meet and greet Jenny Lee and Richard, along with other stars from 70s television shows. So you might want to keep your eyes peeled if that sort of thing is of interest to you. Jenny Lee has also stayed in touch with her LA Rams roots. Here she is pictured with many of her original cheer sisters from that 1978 squad. So you know what? From everything that I can tell, although she may not have the same level of fame that she experienced 40 years ago, Jenny Lee's life seems to be exactly where you would hope it would be. She seems happy and comfortable with who she is right now, and she is able to fondly recollect and celebrate those cherished moments from years gone by. And regardless of what we've all done in this life, I'd say that's what we all hope for, right? As we all get a bit older and maybe just a tiny bit wiser, I think we all want to be able to look back and feel good about what we've accomplished over the years. Just like Jenny Lee. So that's it. One more picture. Here they are, Jenny Lee and Richard. Oh, so many years ago. Man, I loved that show. Anyway, please share your memories in the comments section, and while you're at it, I would love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I'd be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my little channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
All right, I am back. Wanted to address a couple of things. First off, a huge thank you to my friend Danny Staten. He threw a super sticker my way, and that truly is appreciated, Danny. Greetings to you, my friend. Hope all is well in South Carolina this evening. You know, Danny, as long as we've got his super sticker up here, I feel like it's important to mention, he has a number of different channels. The one I love is the one that this super sticker actually came from, is the Daily Dan blog. He has another one that's just his name. And there's another one that's Daily Dan's Good Stuff. But this blog right here is the home for all of Danny's Bigfoot searches as well as his comic book reviews. And so I spend a lot of time here. He recently posted a video, a fun video about some Elvis TV guides they picked up for his mother at a flea market. So anyway, Danny Staten, thank you so much for the kind super sticker. Let me throw a little grimly your way. And how about a little bonus? Let's go with a little bit of bonus. Let's go Elvis.
Thank you very much. 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 Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, a couple other things real quick. Let me take that comment off the screen. Thanks again, Danny. Someone asked how long this is going to run. You know what? It's likely to run over 2 hours tonight. We're going to do some Three's Company trivia right now. It won't be long. It's a trivia video, so you'll have to keep track of your score and then share it in the chat. And then we'll kind of wrap things up. But after that, I'm going to play a handful of videos for other folks that might want to just stick around. They won't be Three's Company related, though. So hello to my friend Barry King. BK on the air is with us, so great to have you here as well. And again, thank you to all my super fans, the channel members. I know I didn't name you all out earlier simply because it's too hard to go back through the chat and see who's here. I did want to say thank you to Justin Aylett, also known as Black Adder. He is the person that suggested I do a super long video about Three's Company, compiling together all of the work that I've done in the past, the videos that I've published. So hopefully this fits the bill, Justin. I did this especially for you. And I appreciate all the suggestions for other live stream topics, that type of thing. So this video, in answer to the person that asked the question, was Dave Wallenberg. When it will be finished, probably in another half hour or so, roughly. But the Three's Company stuff will be done in 10 or 15 minutes, tops. All right, so let me do this. Let's get back into the videos, and let's go ahead and do a little trivia. Feels like the right thing to do right now. It's time to test your trivia knowledge. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And most importantly, after you've finished, please share your score in the comments section of this video. All right, are you ready? Let's get going.
How did you do? Don't forget to share your score in the comments section. And if you're up for the challenge, here's another fun trivia video for you to match your wits against. Thank you so much for playing, and regardless of your score, you are awesome. All right, so I'm seeing some scores here. Let me see if I can run through them real quick. Tom McCloskey, a.k.a. the Hungry Jerk, 8 out of 10. Globe Trekker, 10 out of 10. Nicely done. Superplex, 4 for 7. Blackadder, Justin Aylett, 10 of 10. Jerry Gillespie, 9 of 10. Al Oduwardi, 9 of 10. Cindy D, 10 for 10. Good job. Maximus Prime, 9 out of 10. Matt Sweeney, 9 out of 10. Todd McCreary, 8 out of 10. Superfan Jill Carter, 10 of 10. Kimberly Wiederhold, 10 of 10. Nice. Superfan Georgia Ayers, 9 of 10. And Superfan Nancy D, 8 of 10. Lamont Bradford, 10 of 10. Good job. Superfan Buddy Mills, 9 of 10. Nicely done. Nick Mamonis, 8 of 10. Let's see. Superplexes, that was too fast for me. Ulrich says 9 out of 10. Missed the season's question. John Stemmer, 10 of 10. Let's see. Emily Miller says I got 7 out of 10. Landon Isaac got 8 out of 10. Tom McCluskey's asking what my address is. It's right on the bottom of the screen right now. If you want to send me something, want to make a donation to the Hall of Nostalgia, there is my address. All right, let's see. What other scores do we have here? Dave Willett Jr. got 0 of 10. Sorry, my friend. Robert Vance, 7 out of 10. Emily Miller got 7 out of 10. Danny said he was smoking. Danny Staten, smoking, missed the whole thing, just dazed off listening to music. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Out there on the back porch, I know exactly where you're at, where you're sitting, and you relaxing and just listening to some music. That doesn't sound like a bad thing at all. Sakina McMurrin got 10 out of 10. So some great scores this evening. A lot of folks know a lot about Three's Company. And hopefully you've learned a little bit more this evening as I've shared some of the videos that I've made over the past, past 2-3 years. Three's Company is one of my favorite TV programs. Yes, it was predictable. Yes, it was formulaic, but the actors on that show were so wonderful. The chemistry was so good, particularly during those first few seasons. And then, the addition of Don Knotts as Mr. Furley, one of my absolute favorite comedic actors. I just really loved Three's Company. So here's what we're going to do. Like I said, this is GSTV, so we're done with the Three's Company portion of the video of the live stream tonight. I do have a few more videos I'm going to play. If anybody wants to stick around and chat, that's awesome. We'll probably play another 15-20 minutes worth of videos, and then I'm going to power down the GSTV substation for the evening. But before I do, I want to express my appreciation to everyone that joined me on the live stream this evening. Truly appreciate the engagement in the chat, all the conversation. I appreciate those folks who dropped super chats at me. No, there was no Lawrence Welk tonight. I'm only playing Lawrence Welk these days when it is requested. I know there are a lot of folks that don't really love those Lawrence Welk super chat thank you videos. So I save them for special occasions. But truly appreciate it. I appreciate everyone for your support. And I hope you just have a tremendous week, the rest of this week and beyond. And once again, thank you and have a nice night to everyone. I can honestly say that there is not a time in my life when I don't remember the Flintstones being on television. Even today, you can still watch this show for free if you have an over-the-air antenna, as MeTV currently has it in their programming lineup. Yep, just hearing the name Fred Flintstone conjures up many wonderful memories of the first animated TV program that was part of a network's primetime lineup. But did you know that if co-creator Bill Hanna had been given his choice, Fred would have had a slightly different last name? More on that in a moment. But first, let's talk a bit about the program itself. Reminiscent of the live-action TV show The Honeymooners, the Flintstones debuted on ABC television in 1960 and ran for 6 successful seasons, set in the Stone Age but very much reflecting the modern era of the then 1960s. The show's 2 main protagonists were best friends, Fred Flintstone and his neighbor Barney Rubble. Along for many of their crazy adventures were their wives Wilma and Betty. When the show debuted, most of the critics gave it poor marks and forecasted a quick demise for the cartoon. However, television viewers in the US, well, they loved it, and before you could say yabba dabba doo, Flintstones mania was in full swing. So let's get to this whole name change thing. You see, when Hanna-Barbera put together the pilot for network executives, Fred's last name was Flagstone. I know, it just doesn't sound right. But maybe, just maybe, if he'd been called that for the last 60 years, Flintstones would sound odd to us. However, the name Flagstone was just not going to work. And that's because of this guy. Well-known cartoonist Mort Walker. Walker is best known for the classic comic strip Beetle Bailey, which always seemed to be the inspiration for Gomer Pyle USMC to me. But we're not actually going to talk about Mort's best-known comic strip, because we really need to talk about Mort's other comic strip, Hi and Lois, which was in fact a spin-off from Beetle Bailey. You see, Lois first showed up in the Beetle Bailey comic strip because she's Beetle Bailey's sister. So anyway, Hi and Lois's last name is Flagston. And when Mort Walker heard that Hanna-Barbera was putting together a cartoon called The Flagstones, well, he thought that the name was just a little too similar. So, his lawyers called their lawyers, and before you knew it, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, well, they were forced to put their heads together and come up with a new name for Fred and Wilma. And that, my friends, is how the Flintstones came to be. Not because it was the best choice, but rather because no one really wanted to get sued. Bill Hanna talked about the whole experience of creating the Flintstones at great length in the Australian magazine TV Week, way back in 1979. And in that article he said, "It broke my heart to have to change it to the Flintstones. The Flagstones just sounds right to me. But we had to change it because someone was talking about suing us. I loved that first name." I hear you, Bill, but I really do believe that we're all better off because of the name change. It may not have been your favorite, but it certainly is mine, and I have it on good authority that Pebbles, now that she's all grown up, prefers Flintstone as well. Along with the great 6-year run on primetime television here in the US, the Flintstones have really become part of our pop culture lexicon. I mean, come on, who can forget the live-action movie with John Goodman in the lead role? He really was a great Fred, and Rick Moranis wasn't half bad as Barney either. But even more notable than that is the fact that Weird Al memorialized the program in his song Bedrock Anthem. That song is a lot of fun, and it honors the show and pokes gentle fun at the musical stylings of the Red Hot Chili Peppers all at the same time. If you haven't heard it, you've got to check it out. It's right here on YouTube. One last thought. Can you imagine Flagstones vitamins for kids? Me neither. Some things were just meant to be. Alright, now it's your turn. Please feel free to share your memories and let me know what you think in the comments section below. And while you're at it, I'd appreciate it if you clicked on the thumbs up icon and maybe even considered subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
You were here before, could look you in the eye, just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry, you flow like a feather in a beautiful world. Wish I was special,
so very special, but I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't care if it hurts. I wanna have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul. I want you to notice when I'm not around. You're so very special. I wish I was special, but I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. She's right. She's whatever makes you happy, whatever you want. You're so very special. I wish I was special, but I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't belong here. Yeah. Where'd he go? That was so cute. Hey.
When Andy Griffith passed away suddenly in 2012, the world mourned the passing of a man who symbolized life in a simpler time. As Sheriff Andy Taylor and then later as lawyer Ben Matlock, Griffith played characters who embodied goodness and dispensed down-home folksy wisdom that often made more sense than the chaos that surrounds each one of us when we turn on the evening news or watch the latest reality TV show these days. At his core, Andy represented normalcy. However, the hours immediately after Griffith's death, well, they were anything but. You would think that someone as beloved as Griffith would merit some sort of public viewing, and maybe a formal funeral, but in Andy's case, that was not what happened. In fact, according to CNN, Andy was buried just 5 hours after his passing. This was done at the family's request. It's hard to say why that was made. Was it made because of some sort of religious conviction, or did Andy just not want a big fuss made over him after his demise? Again, I'm not certain. Maybe Andy and his third wife just made the decision that it would be better off to not move forward with the traditional formalities. Nevertheless, I do think it's a bit odd that by the time most people were learning about Griffith's passing, he was already buried in the ground. And since we're talking about Griffith's burial, if you'd like to visit his gravesite and pay your respects, well, you're out of luck. Although you can visit the graves of Don Knotts and Francis Bavier, and even the mausoleum where Howard McNear, who played Floyd the barber, rests, you can do no such thing when it comes to Andy Griffith.
That's because Andy is buried on private property on his Roanoke Island estate. Some folks believe that this is because Andy, despite his public persona, was a very private person in real life and most likely desired to maintain his privacy in death. That said, we are fortunate enough to have numerous other shrines, including this one from the fine folks at TV Land, as well as this wonderful statue that can be found in Andy's original hometown of Mount Airy, North Carolina. Here's a picture of the home that Andy grew up in. If you ever find yourself in Mount Airy, you can actually stay the night in it if you're so inclined. About a year after Griffith's passing, his widow made the decision to demolish a small Roanoke Island home that Andy had purchased in the 50s. It was a home that Griffith had told some friends that he would have liked to have seen turned into a museum. That said, the demolition took place and, well, a little bit of history was gone, just like that. Fortunately, there was already a wonderful Andy Griffith Museum located in Mount Airy. You know that statue that I was talking about a minute ago? It's right outside of the museum, home to the single largest collection of artifacts and memorabilia related to Andy Griffith. The museum features hundreds of items from Andy's life and his career in theater, film, and music. Highlights of the collection include actual props, wardrobe, and other artifacts from the Andy Griffith Show and Matlock that were donated by the Griffith family, members of the casts and crews, and other individuals and organizations. And despite the sad and forlorn look on my face here, I absolutely loved my visit to the museum. And yep, that's Otis Campbell's suit and a couple of his hats directly behind me. So what do you think? Do you find it odd at all that Andy was buried so quickly? Or that you can't visit his grave? Or that one of his homes was demolished? Or does this all make sense given the type of person that Andy Griffith was when the cameras were turned off? Let me know what you think in the comments section, and while you're at it, don't forget to like this video, and what the heck, why not subscribe to the channel? I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
Walmart is my favorite store. I shop there 'cause I am poor. Warning signs on slippery floors. A nice old lady at the door. Thinking of myself again. Wondering where I have been. When do boys turn into men? 'Cause I cry when I bruise my shin. And the babe stops crying, but I'll be okay, 'cause I
During the 1930s, I don't think there was a star that shined brighter than Shirley Temple's. Without a doubt, this young lady had oodles of on-screen charisma, and when you couple that with her near photographic memory, some pretty nifty dancing skills, and a work ethic that was second to none, well, you've got one of Hollywood's first megastars. And while I usually don't talk about actors and actresses from the time period when Shirley was really big, I'm doing so because Ms. Temple was a favorite of my mother's. She loved all of her movies and watched them repeatedly over the years. My mother had a rough childhood and left home at a far too early age, and for whatever reason, I think she identified a little bit with Shirley. Or maybe she just really wished that she had been the recipient of one of those trademark happy endings that most, if not all, of Shirley's movies delivered up. A perfect example of that is the 1938 film Little Miss Broadway, where Shirley plays an orphan who over the course of the movie wins the hearts of everyone that she interacts with, and by the end of the film helps a couple fall in love, and of course they announce that they're going to adopt Shirley's character, who was named Betsy, by the way. So anyway, getting to the point of this video, right around the same time as that movie was being made, Shirley was also being considered for another film, a movie that Shirley Temple wanted more than any other role that she had ever been offered. That once-in-a-lifetime role that I'm talking about was the role of Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Shirley was a huge fan of the books. Now, we all know that Shirley didn't get that role. Of course, the role went to Judy Garland, who, although she was a bit older than the Dorothy in the classic novels, she really turned out to be the perfect Dorothy, and I can't imagine anyone else in the role now. But way back then, Shirley, who was under contract at 20th Century Fox, was considered to be something of a frontrunner for the role. At the time, any movie starring Shirley Temple was box office gold, and because of the budget involved with making The Wizard of Oz, the studio execs over at MGM, well, they thought that Shirley's involvement in the movie would help to minimize the large dollar investment risk. At some point early on, there was conversation about MGM loaning Clark Gable and Jean Harlow to Fox in return for allowing Shirley to play Dorothy, but Harlow's untimely death in 1937, well, that shuttered those plans. Even without a swap, MGM felt like Shirley Temple needed to be considered for the role. It's not like Judy Garland wasn't a known quantity as well. She was, in fact, a pretty darn big star. It's just that she wasn't Shirley Temple big. But boy, oh boy, could she ever sing. MGM knew that from a vocal standpoint, Judy was a slam dunk. Still, MGM requested that Shirley come on in and sing for them. And when she was done, it became even more clear that they had the right Dorothy in Judy Garland. Despite Shirley's immense talent and extreme bankability at the box office, Garland had a depth and gravitas to her voice that Shirley simply could not match. Couple that with the fact that studio head Darryl F. Zanuck didn't want to loan Shirley out unless he got something big in return, and well, you guessed it, you've got a broken-hearted Shirley Temple who wanted that role like none other. Right around the same time as her 10th birthday in 1938, numerous press outlets reported that Shirley Temple would not be playing Dorothy, and that it was, simply put, the greatest disappointment of her brief and eminently griefless career. Still, we shouldn't feel too bad for Shirley. In lieu of The Wizard of Oz, she went on to star in Susanna of the Mounties, which would turn out to be her last big moneymaker for 20th Century Fox. And although the momentum of her career fizzled a bit in the 40s, Shirley did star in a couple of really great movies that I still enjoy even to this day. The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer with Cary Grant, and Ford Apache, that classic John Ford film starring John Wayne and Henry Fonda. And then, of course, later on, Ms. Temple reinvented herself as a United States diplomat. Nope, no need to feel sorry for Shirley. Sure, not getting the role of Dorothy was a huge disappointment, but she moved on, and I'd like to think that she was all the better for it. Alright, now it's your turn. Please share your memories in the comments section. And while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I would be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, most of the time from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
Hey folks, if you're enjoying this live stream, be like the Fonz and give it a thumbs up. Hey.
Thank you. 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 Thank you.